Part 3. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Siahua. Chapter 21. Nuan ate a few mouthfuls of rice, drank water, and looked at the stinky tofu store not far away. It was hard to tell whether it was tourists or patrons. There was a long queue. The heat rose in the big iron pot, and a few pieces of black, the stinky tofu was pierced with long bamboo chopsticks and topped with bright red chili oil and sauce. It was really mouth-watering before it even entered your mouth. The most important thing about stinky tofu is actually the seasoning of the sauce. The tofu needs to be fried crispy and tender. This is a technical job and the unique secret recipe of each major brand. Lu Chang'an followed Nuan's eyes and looked over. Lu Chang'an, you haven't been in love in 3 years of high school. Don't you feel sorry? Nuan interrupted Lu Chang'an's desire to gossip. This man is really good at gossiping. He can quote scriptures and arguments for everything, and trace it back to the present. After talking a lot, Nuan was afraid that he would start talking about stinky tofu again, from the selection of soybeans, grinding, water source, production, etc., so he couldn't help blurting out. Lu Chang'an looked at Nuan. Nuan was a little flustered, her eyelashes lowered to cover her twinkling eyes. She wasn't even sure what answer she wanted, and she didn't know what she was expecting. Did she really expect something to happen, or did she just want to be certain? What? Lu Chang'an hesitated for a moment and said a little embarrassedly, "Does online dating count?" Nuan secretly screamed in her heart, "Oh no, that's bad. Is she as passionate as Bai Hui?" Only then did Nuan realize that what she wanted to confirm most was whether Lu Chang'an had a good impression of her. As for other things, she was not mentally prepared yet. So Nuan relaxed her upright posture, took a few more mouthfuls of food, and then said casually, "Online dating, forget it." That's right, Lu Chang'an just explained what happened 3 years ago that day. He just thought she was prettier than Bai Hui. It didn't mean that he still had some special feelings for her 3 years later. This is okay, after all, the college entrance examination is coming soon, and I shouldn't think wildly. Even if Lu Chang'an really has a crush on me, I won't agree to it. Lu Chang'an has been confused and idle all day long, and he likes to tease girls. What's more, all he had to do was prove that he was better looking than Bai Hui. Bai Hui was completely deflated, but he was still very happy. Do you have a grudge against the chopsticks, or do you have a grudge against the rice? Lu Chang'an saw that Nuan was poking the bowl hard with the chopsticks, and the rice was splashing out. He stared fiercely at an unknown place. "Don't waste the rice, ho, it's noon on the day of the harvest, and the sweat is dripping from the grass in the soil. Who knows that every grain of rice on the plate is hard work? It's a poem I learned when I was in elementary school. I'll give you this bowl too." "You're welcome. Eat slowly, eat well, drink well, and don't waste it." Nuan poured all her rice to Lu Chang'an and walked out of the restaurant angrily. The little girl had such a bad temper. Lu Chang'an smiled and ate slowly. He did not dislike the rice that Nuan had eaten. The college entrance examination is coming soon. You are not a girl like Bai Hui. Study hard and don't tell the difference. Heartbroken. After Lu Chang'an finished eating, he filled a bowl of the restaurant's free soup, pork bone, and kelp soup. There was only one pork bone in the whole pot of soup, and there were a lot of tattered kelp. It seemed that no other seasonings were added except salt. It was considered original, so Lu Chang'an drank it slowly. In fact, adding some ginger slices would make the taste more delicious. Fennel is also good, but fennel seems to be rare now, not many people eat it, and the price is expensive. Lu Chang'an read the news and received a WeChat message. "A male classmate in our class confessed to me while singing at KTV, but I don't like him. The college entrance examination is about to take place. I don't want to be distracted by these things, but he is my classmate. What do you think I should do?" Manage. There is also a video attached. the one of Lu Chang'an at KTV. Lu Chang'an watched the video. This was the first time he watched this video that was widely circulated among classmates. Lu Chang'an would not care what other people thought of him, but watching his own performance, he felt I was a little embarrassed and my mouth felt a little raw, so I laughed and quickly took a sip of the soup. Did the whole class know about the commotion, even the head teacher? Lu Chang'an asked. Yes, my mother and our class teacher are classmates, and the class teacher forwarded it to my mother. Now I'm annoyed to death. The college entrance examination is such an important thing. It's not sooner or later. If you don't say it affects me, it affects him. It's not good, and it's not good at guiding the atmosphere of the class. It feels very bad. Lu Chang'an thought for a while, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and typed a line. Since he is wishful thinking, I suggest it is better for your mother to come and talk to him. Shouldn't the head teacher do this kind of thing? There is nothing the head teacher can do, not to mention that they are all his students. He must feel that now is a critical period and he will bear too much responsibility if he cannot handle it. Forwarding the video to your mother means asking parents to intervene. That's the truth, then I'll think about it again. Would you like to think about it again? Shouldn't the reply be that's right, then I'll let my mother think about it again. Lu Chang'an returned to the classroom carrying the food he had brought for Gao Duai. As soon as he put it down, Huang Shan called him to the office. When called to the office, of course they were talking about Lu Chang'an and An Nuan. Huang Shan specifically reminded Lu Chang'an that An Nuan's mother already knew about the matter and was about to talk to Lu Chang'an, but was stopped by Huang Shan. Huang Shan meant An Nuan. The emotional comfort, ideological work, and communication there were left to An Nuan's parents, who came to talk to Lu Chang'an. This made Lu Chang'an a little depressed, because he was looking forward to meeting him. Huang Shan forwarded the video just out of concern and intention for the friendship between his classmates. It does not mean that he will not deal with this kind of thing. For the old head teacher, it was natural to handle this kind of thing with ease. After some earnest talk, Huang Shan arranged for Lu Chang'an and Miao Yingying to change seats. It's not long before the college entrance examination, but at this time, the less likely it is to cause trouble. In Huang Shan's opinion, it is necessary to deal with this matter in a low-key, gentle, and firm manner. What did Lao Ban think? He suddenly changed seats. Gao Duai said angrily, a little puzzled. I don't know Miao Yingying. I haven't spoken a few words, but it's embarrassing. As for Gao Duai, he didn't know what happened, and no one told him, because he wouldn't take the initiative to care about the gossip. Maybe he is about to graduate, and the head teacher also wants Lu Chang'an to get what he wants. And Nuan helped Lu Chang'an tidy up his desk, with a smile on his face. It's easy to leave, I won't give it away. Gao Duai knew about the gossip that had been circulating for 3 years, but he also knew that Huang Shan would definitely not do it for such a reason, so he patted Lu Chang'an's shoulder to express comfort. I'll watch you play volleyball after school, Lu Chang'an said to An Nuan. An Nuan glanced at him, and he acted like a normal person. An Nuan couldn't help but wonder, in the KTV that day, would he have known that Bai Hui would reject him if he confessed, so he just retreated in order to advance. In fact, he really still likes Bai Fen? Are you just his temporary shield? If this is the case, Lu Chang'an is too powerful. Now he has completely achieved his goal. He was able to get close to Bai Hui in the last moment. Oops. And Nuan's scalp hurt. When she raised her head, she found that it was Lu Chang'an who had knocked her on the head. And Nuan stretched out her hand to pinch Lu Chang'an's waist, but Lu Chang'an avoided it. Study hard and stop thinking wildly. Don't make it difficult for the college entrance examination to go to the same school as me. Who wants to go to the same school as you? And Nuan retorted, go to the same school as your Bai Fen. Lu Chang'an knocked on her again, hugged his book and left. And Nuan looked at Lu Chang'an's back, the empty seat next to him, and Miao Yingying with a shy and sweet smile, and suddenly felt a little lost, as if the feeling of separation after the college entrance examination had come early. Her mood was empty, and her eyes were empty. I can't catch anything if I want to, and the time I want can never come back. Many scenes flowed past in front of his eyes like light and shadow. Habits are often difficult to change. Most people do is change other things to suit their own habits. And Nuan has no way to call Lu Chang'an back. She only feels that her own my habits were forced to change, and everything from my hair to my toes felt unnatural. I took a deep breath. The air around me was awkward. Our grades are about the same. It would be good to be admitted to the same university, Gao Dui, I said with some expectation. Ah, and Nuan came back to her senses. She and Lu Chang'an's scores were indeed about the same, and there was still some gap between them and Gao Dui. In the usual basic exams organized by the school, everyone was chasing after each other, and the difference was only 10 or 20 points. Maybe I will catch up next time, but after all, there is only one college entrance examination. If you are more than 10 points behind in this exam, you will be more than 10 points behind in your life. Gao Dui wants to replace Huang Shan, or to be precise, he wants to be the person who hits the top spot in science in the attached middle school. The difference between the highest and lowest scores admitted by Udaoka Vocational College in our province is 50, 60, or even 70 or 80 points every year, Gao Dui said with encouragement. He thought and Nuan felt that his scores were too different from Gao Dui's. Many. And Nuan rolled her eyes at Gao Dui. If others listened to his encouragement, they would definitely think that he was showing off his power. But Nuan didn't care. She suddenly came to her senses. Did Lu Chang'an mean that he wanted to enter the same university as her? And Nuan couldn't help but take a peek at Lu Chang'an's back, and thought of many plots in novels and movies, especially her favorite campus love plot. Doesn't the biggest wish of the male and female protagonists want to be on the same university campus? And Nuan gritted her teeth and looked at Lu Chang'an, because when she was thinking about these things, Lu Chang'an had already come to his new seat and sat down, facing Bai Fen, smiling like a chrysanthemum blooming under the bright autumn sunshine. Yes, Miao Yingying's original deskmate was Bai Hui. After Lu Chang'an and Miao Yingying changed seats, he became Bai Hui's deskmate. June has not yet arrived, and there is less time left. Lu Chang'an is no longer an Nuan's deskmate. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 22. Qian Ning and Lu Yuan were also staring at Lu Chang'an with gritted teeth. Although they thought that Lu Chang'an would disgrace Bai Hui had a strong and vain temper and had absolutely no good impression of Lu Chang'an, but Lu Chang'an always gave him a feeling of threat. When Lu Yuan brought rice to Bai Hui at noon, Bai Hui also asked Lu Yuan if Lu Chang'an and An Nuan had gone out to eat. Bai Hui thought this was definitely a demonstration, even though Bai Hui emphasized that she didn't like Lu Chang'an at all, and An Nuan this kind of demonstration is meaningless, but it is still very uncomfortable. Lu Chang'an piled the books high and then did the exercises seriously. He read some of Gao Dui's notes and was inspired a lot. Although Lu Chang'an most of the time has a special state of mind brought about by his own age, Lu Chang'an has never relied on his old age to learn. The natural science knowledge accumulated by mankind in the past few hundred years far exceeds that of the past thousands of years. In total, the entire learning and education system has become more efficient, which is a leap forward in levels. For the whole afternoon, Bai Hui ignored Lu Chang'an. After school, Lu Chang'an seemed to ignore Huang Shan's warning and still ran to the gymnasium to watch An Nuan practice. Chen Changzia was also in the gymnasium. He noticed that An Nuan was expressionless, and the feeling was completely different from the usual chatting and laughing with Lu Chang'an. So Chen Changzia was sure that this was his own contribution. The photo he sent exposed Lu Chang'an's true face. Let An Nuan wake up. But Lu Chang'an still ran over, and Chen Changzia said to Lu Chang'an arrogantly, You are so shameless. Lu Chang'an looked at Chen Changzhou with a feeling at ease and mutual look. I'll beat you to death sooner or later. Chen Changzhou ran away with the basketball in his arms. Because there were still teachers in the gym, he didn't dare to be too presumptuous, and he didn't want to attract the attention of the physical education teacher. After Lu Chang'an shot a super long distance shot that day, the physical education teacher heard after talking about this matter, I really wanted to see Lu Chang'an to see the situation. Chen Changzhou didn't want Lu Chang'an to be in the limelight again, although Chen Changzhou insisted that Lu Chang'an was just lucky. Lu Chang'an still sat in his original position and looked at An Nuan. After An Nuan rolled her eyes at Lu Chang'an, she stopped paying attention to him. In the locker room just now, other team members were still joking about her and Lu Chang'an. Her mood was very different from that in the morning. An Nuan felt that she had been wronged, a little bit. It was aggrieved, but An Nuan observed it many times in the afternoon. Apart from the chrysanthemum-like disgusting smile at the beginning, Lu Chang'an did not do anything intimate or try to please Bai Hui anymore. This made An Nuan forgive him despite being 100% angry. Give him 1 point, otherwise I wouldn't even give him that white look just now. Lu Chang'an sat in the stands and thought of Qin Yinan. To be precise, he remembered Qin Yinan's great-grandmother Ye Sijin. In some ways, Qin Yinan only looked like Ye Sijin at first sight and appearance. But sitting here, Lu Chang'an saw Ye Sijin in An Nuan. Shadow. In 1913, the American churches, the North American Presbyterian Church, the Methodist Church, the Board of Supervisors, the North American Baptist Church and the Church of Christ decided to establish a women's university. In November of that year, a school board of directors was established and the site was selected in Jinling. In 1915, Jinling Women's University was established. School starts at the former site of Lihongjiang Garden in Zhuhua Lane, southeast of Jinling. This was a very successful school. It established 16 four-year subjects, including Chinese, English, history, social studies, psychology, physical education, chemistry, biology, home economics and medical colleges. From 1919 to 1951, graduates the number of people is 999, and they are called 999 roses. Ye Sijin is one of them. She may not look like a rose, but she is lighter and more elegant. Lu Chang'an felt that she was more like bamboo, with clear and crisp swaying, seemingly weak but with a strong character of her own. As a women's university, under the modern teaching concept, sports have also developed very vigorously. Ye Sijin likes to play volleyball very much. This sport, invented in 1895, was introduced to China with Americans who came to China in a few years. At that time, Ye Sijin often wore black sports shorts, white sneakers, and white short and medium-sleeved tops, running and jumping on the court. Brother. You haven't seen me for a long time. Brother, Qin Peng sneaked away somewhere again today. Brother, it turns out that Mr. Zhongyi from our school also participated in the design. This is our school's sportswear, doesn't it look good? We can live peacefully here, but when I think about our country, my heart hurts. Brother, why are we being bullied like this? Qin Peng went to the factory to deliver explosives, let's go pick them up. I met Mr. Ziran today. He is so tall. He said that we must have confidence. Although there are few party members, they will develop. He said that a single spark can start a prairie fire. I am already a party member today, brother. Time is like a spark that burns out a lifetime inadvertently. Over the past thousands of years, I have met countless people and experienced this countless times. My emotions should have become weaker and weaker, almost non-existent, and finally I have been indifferent to the warm, cozy, sweet, and acquaintance emotions. Nothing, just a long, long time ago. Okay, I'll just take care of you. A soft voice sounded in her ears. and Nuan sat next to Lu Chang'an and wiped the corners of Lu Chang'an's eyes with her fingers. "Ah, what are you wiping? Where is it?" Lu Chang'an came to his senses and found that Nuan was no longer present, but sitting next to her. Lu Chang'an was very surprised at his emotions. "I'm going to change clothes. My mother asked me to go home early today." It was the first time Nuan saw Lu Chang'an, who was not laughing and joking, not careless. Her eyes were shining with magical light, they were big and her eyelashes were fluttering. "Go ahead." After Nuan changed her clothes, Lu Chang'an looked no different from before. Nuan liked the way he looked at her blankly at that time, but she felt a little distressed later. "Your mother asked you to go back early, probably because of what happened at school today." Lu Chang'an sorted out his first excessive emotional ups and downs in recent years. This made Nuan a little worried, but she couldn't help but tentatively ask Lu Chang'an, "What should I say?" Parents are sometimes like the barrier between virgins and non-virgins over the life and feelings of a girl of this age. They don't have much actual control, they are just a warning. You just say that he is a fool with unrequited love. You don't want to pay attention to him. In your heart, you only have volleyball and study, and you have no interest in things like love. High school boys are full of hormones. They only think about breasts and big breasts, long legs, just like the duck in Duck Love. I hate it. I don't allow you to talk about yourself like that." And Nuan blushed angrily, but Lu Chang'an was still so vulgar and a little suspicious. "Did you talk to Bai Hui like that today? You have been staring at me from behind and monitoring me." "How dare I talk to her?" Lu Chang'an asked strangely. "Who is watching you from behind, spying on you?" And Nuan became even more angry, her cheeks were flushed, and she stamped her feet several times. Then she realized it again. "It turns out you still like her very much, and you still want to talk to her." Before Lu Chang'an could respond, Nuan pointed at Lu Chang'an with sudden realization, "Boys only think about breasts and long legs, haha, let me ask you, which one of these two is more attractive to boys?" "Breasts," Lu Chang'an replied firmly. "Lu Chang'an," Nuan jumped up behind Lu Chang'an, hugged his neck unbearably, and tried to push him to the ground. "Alas, when I was still a monkey, the female monkey should also like to be so playful, right? What are you doing? How rude are you?" The head teacher Huang Shan's voice sounded from behind, angrily. These two people completely turned a deaf ear to their noon warning. Nuan jumped down quickly, pulled Lu Chang'an and ran away without looking back, pretending that she didn't hear Huang Shan's voice. "If you don't act arrogantly, you will have to leave this cage. If you are not in the cage, what fun would there be in being arrogant?" Chapter 23. When Nuan returned home, it was later than usual. Nuan, your mother won 3 traditional fashion awards held by the school today, Best Temperament, Best Body, and Best Talent. It's really amazing." Downstairs, I met Professor Ling from across the building. Professor Ling was less than 40 this year and had a well-maintained figure. Of course, this was only compared to most of his peers, not including Lu Yuwang. Lu Yuwang is younger than Professor Ling, and she is Nuan's mother. That's because this competition is not your area of expertise, Auntie. It pays attention to tradition. If it were a dance talent competition and the word traditional was not limited, Auntie, your belly dance would conquer all the judges." And Nuan said with a smile, "It's not an exaggeration, she and her mother both learned belly dancing from Professor Ling. It's just fun to dance at home. In the city, apart from the old streets and alleys, the kind of neighborhood relationship where school families raise funds can best maintain traditional exchanges. They have all worked in the same unit for more than 10 years. Even colleagues who have been working for decades have completely different relationships with neighbors in newly built commercial communities." Professor Ling was very helpful and patted Nuan on the shoulder. "The college entrance examination is coming soon. Please pay attention to relax. When you relax, dance, listen to music, and come to Auntie's house to play." "Okay, and Nuan's voice was very delicate, and she took Professor Ling's arm and went upstairs together. Girls' legs are so long. Professor Ling looked at Nuan enviously. I wish I had a daughter like this. Zhi's legs don't feel half as long as yours. It's not such an exaggeration. If Zhi listens, I will have to amputate my limbs. And Nuan burst out laughing. Hans Zhi is Professor Ling's daughter and lives across the street. The two girls are close in age. Although they are not in the same school, they have a good relationship. Children's words are unbridled, children's words are unbridled, Professor Ling said quickly. When Nuan opened the door, Professor Ling looked at Lu Yuang sitting on the sofa, still wearing the cheongsam from the morning competition. The 36-year-old woman had a gentle and girlish temperament, which made people envious. Her shallow eyebrows and the soft corners of the mouth always remind people of the poem On the Willow Branches Above the Moon, People Make Appointments After Dusk. Still pretty, Lu Yuang was looking at his phone, with a shy smile on his face that had a quiet sweetness. Professor Ling said hello. Lu Yuang turned around, stood up, and said angrily, "What are you talking about? Go back and cook for yours, Hizzy. You just ate an ice cream here and you're complaining that you're hungry. She won't die if she is fat." Professor Ling cursed and turned around to open the door of his own house. And Nuan closed the door, changed her shoes, took off her sweatpants and jacket, and prepared to walk to the bathroom. There were only mother and daughter at home, so when they could wear cool clothes, they didn't need to worry too much. Lu Yuang frowned, folded his hands on his chest and looked at Nuan. "Didn't I ask you to go home early today? I practiced volleyball for a while, and I forgot about time. The skill that one can naturally master as one grows up is lying." And Nuan's face was not red, her heart was not beating, and her expression was natural. Of course, it was impossible to tell the truth that she was standing on the overpass chatting with Lu Chang'an. "Time. Sit down, I have something to tell you." Lu Yuang knocked on the coffee table. And Nuan was mentally prepared and sat down calmly. What she cared about was the shy and sweet smile she saw on her mother's face when she just walked in, which reminded her of a woman in love. Only a woman in love would look at her phone with such an expression. It must be a message from her sweetheart that makes her blush and heartbeat. For women, the signs of falling in love are the same, whether she is 18 or 36. But he couldn't tell for sure, it was just an expression. Maybe he was thinking too much. And Nuan sat down and saw Lu Yuang picking up the phone again. He didn't seem to reply to her message. He put the phone on the phone in a dull manner. On his lap, he glanced at the phone screen before looking at Nuan seriously again. "Do you have anything to say to me?" Lu Yuang looked at his daughter's face, as if he were looking at himself 18 years ago. The powerful genetic transmission made the two people look very similar, but Nuan had a girlish aura. "No." Nuan giggled, "Mom, your cheongsam is so beautiful and shows off your figure. It must have made all the men in the school look at you today." "No, women are the same. Lu Yuang is indeed in good shape, and only confident women dare to wear cheongsam. What I want to talk about is about you and Lu Chang'an in your class." Lu Yuang was a little helpless. After looking at his phone, he finally put it down and stared at Nuan attentively. "The college entrance examination is about to take place. I don't need to say more. You also know how to deal with it." And Nuan also became serious and folded her hands on her chest. "Lu Chang'an and I are just friends." He made the misunderstanding clear that day, of course, and Nuan would not bury Lu Chang'an according to what Lu Chang'an told her. "But it seems to me that he really likes you. Mom has been through this before. She can still tell the tone and behavior when mentioning the person she likes." And Nuan shook her head and hugged Lu Yuang's neck. "Mom, who do you think you are? As an elder, there are some things you are not good at, so stop pretending." Lu Yuang glared at Nuan, rolled her eyes at her again, and pressed her chest angrily. "I just saw you playing on your phone. Which uncle were you chatting with so happily? If you really meet someone you like, you have to let me check it, and Nuan took the opportunity to ask tentatively. What? Just a netizen. Lu Yuwang patted An Nuan on the back. Go, take a shower. And Nuan giggled. As an only daughter and a caring little cotton padded jacket to her mother, many things just got over in a blur. Walking into the bathroom, An Nuan's smile faded. Netizen. Online dating. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 23. When An Nuan returned home, it was later than usual. Nuan, your mother won 3 traditional fashion awards held by the school today: Best Temperament, Best Body, and Best Talent. It's really amazing. Downstairs, I met Professor Ling from across the building. Professor Ling was less than 40 this year and had a well-maintained figure. Of course, this was only compared to most of his peers, not including Lu Yuwang. Lu Yuwang is younger than Professor Ling, and she is An Nuan's mother. That's because this competition is not your area of expertise, Auntie. It pays attention to tradition. If it were a dance talent competition and the word traditional was not limited, Auntie, your belly dance would conquer all the judges. And Nuan said with a smile. It's not an exaggeration, she and her mother both learned belly dancing from Professor Ling. It's just fun to dance at home. In the city, apart from the old streets and alleys, the kind of neighborhood relationship where school families raise funds can best maintain traditional exchanges. They have all worked in the same unit for more than 10 years. Even colleagues who have been working for decades have completely different relationships with neighbors in newly built commercial communities. Professor Ling was very helpful and patted An Nuan on the shoulder. The college entrance examination is coming soon. Please pay attention to relax. When you relax, dance, listen to music, and come to Auntie's house to play. Okay. And Nuan's voice was very delicate, and she took Professor Ling's arm and went upstairs together. Girls' legs are so long. Professor Ling looked at An Nuan enviously. I wish I had a daughter like this. His legs don't feel half as long as yours. It's not such an exaggeration. If Zhi listens, I will have to amputate my limbs. And Nuan burst out laughing. Hans Zhi is Professor Ling's daughter and lives across the street. The two girls are close in age. Although they are not in the same school, they have a good relationship. Children's words are unbridled, children's words are unbridled, Professor Ling said quickly. When An Nuan opened the door, Professor Ling looked at Lu Yuwang sitting on the sofa, still wearing the cheongsam from the morning competition. The 36-year-old woman had a gentle and girlish temperament, which made people envious. Her shallow eyebrows and the soft corners of the mouth always remind people of the poem On the Willow Branches Above the Moon, People Make Appointments After Dusk. Still pretty, Lu Yuwang was looking at his phone, with a shy smile on his face that had a quiet sweetness. Professor Ling said hello. Lu Yuwang turned around, stood up, and said angrily, "What are you talking about? Go back and cook for yours Zhi. You just ate an ice cream here and you're complaining that you're hungry. She won't die if she is fat." Professor Ling cursed and turned around to open the door of his own house. An Nuan closed the door, changed her shoes, took off her sweatpants and jacket, and prepared to walk to the bathroom. There were only mother and daughter at home, so when they could wear cool clothes, they didn't need to worry too much. Lu Yuwang frowned, folded his hands on his chest and looked at An Nuan. "Didn't I ask you to go home early today? I practiced volleyball for a while, and I forgot about time. The skill that one can naturally master as one grows up is lying." An Nuan's face was not red, her heart was not beating, and her expression was natural. Of course, it was impossible to tell the truth that she was standing on the overpass chatting with Lu Chang'an. "Time. Sit down, I have something to tell you." Lu Yuwang knocked on the coffee table. An Nuan was mentally prepared and sat down calmly. What she cared about was the shy and sweet smile she saw on her mother's face when she just walked in, which reminded her of a woman in love. Only a woman in love would look at her phone with such an expression. It must be a message from her sweetheart that makes her blush and heartbeat. For women, the signs of falling in love are the same, whether she is 18 or 36. But he couldn't tell for sure, it was just an expression. Maybe he was thinking too much. And Nuan sat down and saw Lu Yuwang picking up the phone again. He didn't seem to reply to her message. He put the phone on the phone in a dull manner. On his lap, he glanced at the phone screen before looking at Nuan seriously again. "Do you have anything to say to me?" Lu Yuwang looked at his daughter's face, as if he were looking at himself 18 years ago. The powerful genetic transmission made the two people look very similar, but Nuan had a girlish aura. No, Nuan giggled, "Mom, your Cheongsam is so beautiful and shows off your figure. It must have made all the men in the school look at you today." "No, women are the same. Lu Yuwang is indeed in good shape, and only confident women dare to wear Cheongsam. What I want to talk about is about you and Lu Chang'an in your class." Lu Yuwang was a little helpless. After looking at his phone, he finally put it down and stared at Nuan attentively. "The college entrance examination is about to take place. I don't need to say more. You also know how to deal with it." And Nuan also became serious and folded her hands on her chest. "Lu Chang'an and I are just friends." He made the misunderstanding clear that day, of course, and Nuan would not bury Lu Chang'an according to what Lu Chang'an told her. "But it seems to me that he really likes you. Mom has been through this before. She can still tell the tone and behavior when mentioning the person she likes." And Nuan shook her head and hugged Lu Yuwang's neck. "Mom, who do you think you are? As an elder, there are some things you are not good at, so stop pretending." Lu Yuwang glared at Nuan, rolled her eyes at her again, and pressed her chest angrily. "I just saw you playing on your phone. Which uncle were you chatting with so happily? If you really meet someone you like, you have to let me check it." And Nuan took the opportunity to ask tentatively. "What?" "Just a netizen." Lu Yuwang patted Nuan on the back. "Go, take a shower." And Nuan giggled. As an only daughter and a caring little cotton-padded jacket to her mother, many things just got over in a blur. Walking into the bathroom, Nuan's smile faded. "Netizen. Online dating. I'm really immortal." Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 24. Lu Chang'an and Nuan separated and slowly walked towards the bridge. The wind in the river is gentle, and the setting sun has completely immersed itself behind the Lushan mountain. Only the afterglow is scattered. Looking up from the distance, the most eye-catching portrait of the great man at the head of Orange Island is smiling, and his eyes are looking at him gently. He once studied and lived, and encountered flames and blood. Water, the rebuilt city. Among human beings, there are humble ones, great ones, ugly ones, and beautiful ones. He only lived a short life of 100 years, but he continued to interpret the history of the entire ethnic group wonderfully. Human beings call themselves epics, but from another level, from beginning to end, it is nothing more than a drama. Sushi once told a story. Raspberry water is on the ground, mustard floats on the water, ants cling to the mustard, and they are at a loss and don't know what to do. After a while, the water dried up, and the ant went away. When he saw his kind, he burst into tears and said, "I almost never see you again. Did you know that there is a square track and 8 directions between the elevations? I regard the lives and moods of ordinary humans as the same as the behavior of ants. I wonder if there is still that rock that has soared 90,000 miles away and looks down on me in the boundless space and world." Even though he is an ant, he is still missed. Lu Chang'an has never looked down upon or disdained the fear and worry attached to mustard seeds. Yesijin is such a cute ant. Lu Chang'an found that since meeting Qinyanan, the memories about Yesijin became much clearer in his mind and began to emerge. There may be many things that he needs to see and think about in order to make his memory more clear. Whole. But this is not necessary. Countless years of memories are accumulated and suppressed in the bottom of my heart. It is originally a kind of protection for one's own spirit. Otherwise, hundreds of years and thousands of years of memory images will float in my mind at will, and I am afraid that I will go crazy. Lost. Returning to the community, Lu Chang'an went to the fence and picked some pumpkin vines. This is the only remaining wall in the entire community. Vegetables are planted under the wall, and vines are climbing on the wall. Pumpkin vines, loofah vines, bitter melon vines, not far away. A grape arbor was also set up, and people who had had dinner early were already sitting under it to enjoy the cool air and chat. Xiao Lu, finish your meal early and come and fight off the beard. Okay, I can't even afford 2 tables to play mahjong these days. At the turn of spring and summer, yang fire is weak and rising, making it easy to get sick. After chatting for a while, Lu Chang'an went home, collected the dried coriander that had been drying for a day, knocked down the fallen leaves on the top of the carriage with a broom, and swept the floor before starting to cook. Of course, what we eat today is pumpkin vines, without meat, and stir-fried with chili peppers. Lu Chang'an has lived in southern Hunan for many years and has become accustomed to the taste here. Life is actually a very simple thing. As long as there are not so many desires and desires are satisfied immediately, there will not be so many worries and worries. However, life is short, and not everyone can wait as slowly as Lu Chang'an. To slowly figure out how to realize and enjoy one's desires in a limited life, is the source of such impatience in this world. After taking a shower, he changed into a white vest, black linen pants, straw vine sandals, and carrying a big cattail leaf fan, Lu Chang'an went to the grapevines to fight off his beard. The rules of running beard are similar to mahjong, but it is played with cards. Hu cards and doubles are similar, but it is played faster than mahjong. Lu Chang'an is naturally a veteran among them. The beard race has to be scored, and the money is calculated after reaching 100. Lu Chang'an is young and has good eyesight, so of course he is responsible for scoring, but old men and women also wear glasses. From time to time, they have to see if Lu Chang'an writes more or less. From time to time, he would stare blankly ahead through his reading glasses, mumbling, looking at his fingers to calculate the total score. Xiao Lu is about to take the college entrance examination, right? Old Qian didn't have a runny nose today and was in much better spirits. This was also due to the fact that he ate at 3 restaurants by himself last night. Now he was so powerful that he grabbed Lu Chang'an and started shooting him. Soon Lu Chang'an smiled, take the exam to any school. That's not okay, after playing today, you have to review carefully. You are not allowed to play before the college entrance examination, old man Qian said with concern. If you don't play today, the game will be over, so just review carefully from tomorrow. After playing all night, old man Qian went high and low tonight and lost. Come back tomorrow. Old man Qian took Lu Chang'an's hand and said with angrily eyes, very unwillingly. Okay, Lu Chang'an laughed and counted the money proudly. Wait, old man Qian snorted heavily and left. Lu Chang'an put away the 8 yuan with satisfaction, folded the tables and chairs and placed them on the wall. These tables and chairs did not belong to anyone else. Many families moved the unused tables and chairs here a long time ago, and no one took them back. Just as a public entertainment device. It was Lu Chang'an who brought the cards, ballpoint pen, and scorebook. He packed them away and then smiled towards the shadow not far away. Qin Yinan didn't expect that Lu Chang'an had discovered her, so she came over. Aunt Xie from the canteen waited for the card game to end. She originally planned to turn off the light bulb hanging on the grapevine frame, but when she saw the situation, she quickly stopped her hand and yawned carelessly while holding the cattail leaf fan, while occasionally turning off the corners of her eyes. Out of the corner of his eye he glanced over. The light from the big bulb was so intense that the shadows were particularly clear. Qin Yinen's tall figure seemed to make even the shadows extraordinarily tall. She was wearing black culottes with a rose-red ribbon tied around her waist, giving her a light and fiery feeling. Qin Yinen finished dinner at his father's residence in the evening, drank some wine with him, and talked about some things about his great-grandfather and Lu Chang'an. He felt a little confused and more annoyed. Lu Chang'an smiled and seemed to say hello and walked home. Qin Yinen was stunned for a moment. He originally wanted to leave, but now that he was here, he was unwilling to say anything or vent. Then he followed. The sycamore trees with sparse branches and leaves, the cold moonlight, and the quiet courtyard reminded Lu Chang'an of a poem. The missing moon hangs on the sparse toom trees, which makes people feel quiet at first. Who can see lonely people coming and going alone, misty and lonely shadows? Startled but looked back, no one can spare the regret. Picking out all the cold branches and refusing to live on them, the lonely sandbank is cold. Thousands of years later, the poet's situation and mood at that time were naturally different from Lu Chang'an's, but some of the emotions were the same. Qin Yinen felt that Lu Chang'an's back was a little lonely, and it even reminded her of the first time she listened to Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony. Why was that piece of music as calm as water, even with some cheerful little waves, called sorrow? Later, after listening to it more and growing up, I realized that true loneliness is difficult to describe to others. It is the calmness after having accumulated so many holes in the heart and then rebuilt the atrium. And calm, like the calm sea surface, there is an undercurrent of wind and thunder hidden. What is visible at a glance is sadness, but what is hidden is pathos. Lu Chang'an turned around and looked at the face that became more familiar as his memory revived, showing the same smile as before. I have a very good relationship with the Qin family and the Ye family, especially your great-grandmother and I are very close. Lu Chang'an still smiled, glanced at the sycamore tree with many leaves missing, and said to Qin Yin in surprise. Qin Yin talked to her father about Lu Chang'an today, but her father didn't know much more than she did. Her great-grandfather meant that Qin Yin should have more contact with Lu Chang'an, and we would talk about other things later. What can we talk about later? When his grandfather passed away, his father was still in his infancy. It can be said that his father was raised by his great-grandfather. His father never disobeyed his great-grandfather. Qin Yin knew very well that if his great-grandfather wanted to do something, his father would only support him absolutely. Is Lu Chang'an related to his great-grandmother? But this seems a bit too far, not to mention that the relatives on the great-grandmother's side have no impression or contact at all since Qin Yin can remember it. Could it be because they finally found a trace of bloodline left over from the great-grandmother's side, that is, Lu Chang'an? Is that why my great-grandfather had this idea? Thank you for your generous reward, I am very grateful. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 25. Qin Yinen's mood became more and more uncomfortable. After the age of 20, women basically begin to accept reality and understand that romantic love with fairy tale colors is unlikely to appear. They even become more and more disdainful of the routines of idol dramas. To be honest, in idol dramas, those male protagonist routines, I am afraid that as soon as he uses them, someone will intentionally or unintentionally warn him to stay away from Qin Yinen. So Qin Yinen gradually became mentally prepared and began to wonder who the family would arrange for her. Whenever her family talked about some outstanding, eye-catching, promising young people, Qin Yinen would pay special attention to it, but she took note of it. Many names. Although she didn't have any special affection for these people at all, she was reluctant and repulsive, but at least she had an impression and knew who they were. What about Lu Chang'an? But he jumped out like a monkey, pointed at Qin Yinen's nose and laughed loudly, "Stop picking, your rightful man is me." Then he carried Qin Yinen on his shoulders, and amid the sound of firecrackers lit by his father and great-grandfather, he happily snatched Qinyanan back to his small bedroom that was converted from a utility room. Do you want to comfort yourself? Will this small bedroom have a warmer feeling? Then you should be considered my cousin. Qinyanan forced a smile. No matter what, girls always subconsciously want to be the younger one, even when facing Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an shook his head. Cousin, I am 18 years old. I am a senior in high school at the high school affiliated to Xiongnan Normal University. I will take the college entrance examination next month. 18 years old. Qinyanan's originally somewhat lazy stance straightened up instantly. Commonly worn by men in their 40s or 50s on the streets of Juncha are summer shirts and vests, fat and coarse cloth pants that can hold a bottle of urquatu, and straw and rattan sandals that are only available in very old small markets. This is an 18-year-old boy. When she first saw Lu Chang'an, Qinyanan felt that he was about the same age as herself. She never thought that he might be so much younger than her. In other words, is it entirely my own preconceived misunderstanding? No matter how much her great-grandfather cared about her distant cousin, there was no way he could force such a thing. Thinking of this, Qinyanan breathed a sigh of relief. The depression that had been suppressed in her heart for the past few days was finally released with her breathing. No one knew that just now she was observing her fiancé and watching Lu Chang'an playing cards with a group of old men and old ladies, arguing over every dollar. The mood during the block. If her fiancé was really like this, Qinyanan would rather become a monk. Only 18 years old. My own cousin. Although this little cousin was a distant relative, judging from my great-grandfather's mood, there was no doubt that he valued this little cousin very much. After my great-grandmother died, according to the conventions and organizational arrangements at the time, a female orderly received the task of taking care of the chief. It was 10 years later that my great-grandfather married again. But everyone knows that the great-grandfather never forgets his great-grandmother. There is always a photo of him and his great-grandmother on his desk, whether in the capital, his hometown, or a nursing home. Wait, there are 3 people in that photo, not just great-grandfather and great-grandmother. Photos from that era always reveal a sense of elegance that has accumulated over time. The black and white tones cannot conceal their high spirits. The great-grandfather is heroic and the great-grandmother is elegant and gentle. She is sitting in the middle, her palms slightly raised, her wrists white. Her slender fingers gently held the fingers of the man on the right, and the nostalgia and dependence between her brows overflowed the picture. This man was closer to his great-grandmother than to his great-grandfather in the photo. Great-grandfather once said that he was great-grandmother's brother, but no more information about him was known, and great-grandfather was unwilling to reveal it. In that era, there were countless people who were supposed to be unparalleled in their splendor, but with the willingness to sacrifice so much and dare to make the sun and the moon change the sky, they came forward one after another and willingly became the cornerstones of the revolution, even if they were unknown. People learn that even if they leave no names or traces, they must build up the future of a new country and nation. That man is probably one of them. Qinyanan's speculation was justified. His great-grandfather believed that only those who revolutionize with me are friends, not to mention those who betray the country and seek glory. Even those who are sensible and protective of themselves were looked down upon by him. When he was studying, some people retreated to the southwest, but my great-grandfather and great-grandmother were the ones who abandoned their pens and picked up their guns. The reason why my great-grandfather specifically left a group photo of the 3 of them was definitely not just because that man was a close relative of my great-grandmother. Now that the Qin family is high up in the temple and Lu Chang'an is in such a state of decline, my great-grandfather must have felt very ashamed of his comrades who sacrificed their lives fighting side by side in the past. It is understandable that Qinyanan should make a special trip to take care of Lu Chang'an. Qinyanan should be asked to be courteous and respectful. It is also based on Lu Chang'an's great-grandfather. So that's it. Qinyanan's tone became much softer. It's really sad and sad. The friendship between the old people started hundreds of years ago. Now that we meet again, I just hope that this origin and friendship will not be broken. That's great, we must keep in touch with you more in the future. Lu Chang'an opened his mouth, as if he thought of something, looked at Qin Yinan carefully, and then shook his head. Qin Yinan was puzzled by his reaction. She had no affection for the cousin she had cultivated since she was a child, but she was working hard to fulfill her great-grandfather's wish. As a cousin, she no longer had the original rejection if she got closer to this distant cousin. I thought at first that your great-grandfather asked you to come to see me so that 100 years later he would let me remember our friendship and take care of you. After all, you look so much like Yesijin, and he knew that I cared about this. He will definitely try his best. Lu Chang'an laughed in surprise. You reminded me that his idea seems to be more than that, he wants you to be my wife. What did you say? It was like a bolt from the blue, and the ups and downs of her mood were just like the ups and downs of her magnificent and broad mind. This is ridiculous, how can I marry a woman who looks almost exactly like your great-grandmother? Lu Chang'an's mind flashed with Yesijin's voice and smile. Go back, I will make it clear to your great-grandfather and ask him to stop this idea. Qin Yinan stared at Lu Chang'an in disbelief. How is that possible? I'm 7 years older than you, how could he arrange it like this? And why do you look down on me? If a man who looks exactly like your great-grandfather comes to pursue you, will he have a chance? Lu Chang'an asked rhetorically. Qin Yinan shook his head. This feeling was too weird and definitely unacceptable. Isn't it clear? It's different. Qin Yinan always felt that Lu Chang'an had no reason to look down on her because she looked so much like her great-grandmother. This was different from the fact that she couldn't accept a boyfriend who looked like her great-grandfather. It's nothing different. Although technically I have no blood relationship with anyone, your appearance is really unacceptable and will make me immersed in many memories. This is not what I want, for me generally speaking, time will take away everyone, and I should also restrain my past emotions and memories. Lu Chang'an couldn't explain it clearly to Qin Yinan. You think I do? Qin Yinan was furious, turned around and left angrily. This angry little look was much cuter than his usual cold and reserved look. Lu Chang'an nodded with satisfaction, and then entered the room while shaking his cattail leaf fan. Qin Yinan returned to Bailong Center. Zhongqing was taking the high-level Templar warriors for a walk downstairs. Qin Yinan only found out today that Zhu Huntang named her Rottweiler dog Protoss High Templars. The original Chinese name was Sheng. The high-ranking warrior of the Tang dynasty has now been given a translation that is more in line with the essence of Xindaya, the eminent monk of Puchuo Temple. But Puchuo Temple is a real Buddhist holy place, and eminent monks cannot be insulted at will, so Zhu Huntang still calls her dog High Templar. What is this mess? Qin Yinan was not interested in knowing the reason for Zhu Huntang's name, so he asked Zhongqing where Zhu Huntang was. Zhongqing continued to walk the high-ranking Templar. The security in Juncha was not bad, let alone in the city center, not to mention that she was holding a fierce dog that reminded people of a ferocious hunter. Qin Yinan met Zhu Huntang on the helicopter platform of the main building of Bailong Center. The beautiful girl was wearing a gorgeous Ming Dynasty official lady's dress. She was holding a small folding fan in her hand and looking around downstairs. Qin Yinan really envied her doing nothing, although she also knew that Zhu Huntang's ambitions that did not match her mind were actually very rampant. I suspect that one day I will really jump from here. Zhu Huntang took 2 tentative steps on the edge, then walked back, leaned into Qin Yinan's arms, touched his forehead and said, "Ah, dear, I'm afraid Gao, let me rest in your arms for a while." Qin Yinan pushed away Zhu Huntang's soft body and walked into the glass house filled with various flowers. Except for the lights on the top of Lushan Mountain in the distance, looking straight from the top of the city to the left and right, it turned out to be endless darkness. However, the warmth emanating from the small glass house formed an extremely obvious contrast, making people finally calm down. "Why do you always like to climb up here?" Qin Yinan didn't doubt that Zhu Huntang would jump off the roof. Who hasn't had crazy ideas? Only reason can control it. If there is a strong wind on the roof of this building, there is a possibility that Zhu Huntang will be blown down. Don't you think that you are sitting here, as if you are sitting on the clouds, and you have become a little fairy? Zhu Huntang smiled. I am a fairy, and I am not in the mortal world. Fairies all marry ordinary people, Qin Yinan mocked slightly. That doesn't matter, Zhu Huntang didn't care about this. Then I'm still a fairy, but how was your inquiry today? Zhu Huntang knew what Qin Yinan was most concerned about now, and today she went to find her father for information. Did you know? My dad analyzed, in the past, my great-grandfather always blocked people who came to introduce or propose marriage. The reason was to let me choose by myself. In fact, he was waiting to find his old friend. I will keep her as my daughter-in-law. This kind of analysis made Qin Yinan depressed the whole night. Who is this person? What's his name? I'll check it for you. Zhu Huntang suppressed his gloating and showed a very concerned expression. Can I tell you? I don't want you to mix in. Qin Yinan shook her head without thinking. She knew Zhu Huntang's character very well. She wanted to mix in everything and make self-righteous decisions. After muddying the waters, you run away and let others clean up the mess. Aren't we sisters anymore? Zhu Huntang said angrily. Qin Yinan looked at Zhu Huntang, looking up and down, and suddenly remembered the romantic affair of Sumei, the old lady of Zhu Huntang's family, when she was young. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 26. When Sumei was young, she was a wealthy socialite in Shanghai. At that time, her circle of friends included Zhang Liang, Zhou Hifu, Yan Renmei, Wu Jing, Shen Ai, and of course the famous Miss Zhao Si. What these rich ladies have in common is that their ancestors were very wealthy and they are very wealthy now. Some of their families are close friends of Li Hongzhang, governors of Liangjiang and Guangxi, ministers of Biyang, veterans of the Republic of China, heads of government, and some of them are not even among the four major families. The old capitalists who take it seriously. Miss Zhao Si has a low status among them, because her father is only the deputy director of the Ministry of Transportation of the Biyang government, which is equivalent to the current deputy ministerial level. There is nothing special about the children of deputy senior officials in their circle. Zhao Si, the young lady, could only elope with Zhang Suiliang, because in the eyes of their family, Zhang Suiliang was of poor origin, even if his father was Zhang Ziulin. The country was in ruins and the people were in dire straits, but this did not affect the upper class to continue to maintain their scholar-official style for 3,000 years. At that time, Lu Xiaoman and Lin Huiyan were of course very famous and talented, but many ladies and daughters probably did not think highly of them. After all, they were already. The downfall may just be that his grandfather was a local official with a Jinchi background. Old Mrs. Zhu, no, she was still Miss Zhu at that time, but she didn't like to enjoy life with famous ladies. She was also close friends with Qin Peng and Ye Sijin, and she made a lot of efforts for the revolution and anti-Japanese cause. Instead of asking Tagore to insinuate flying birds and fishing, he exudes a sad temperament and is concerned about the country and the people as if the whole world is snowing and I am drifting away. Over the past few decades, the situation has changed, and who has not been displaced? The Zhu family also left the mainland. After the reform and opening up, there was an urgent need for investment in the country. Qin Peng personally invited the Zhu family to return to the mainland to invest. Over the years, the Zhu family's investments in the mainland have flourished, and the friendship from the past is indispensable. Like Qin Peng, Sumei, who had been in charge of the Zhu family for more than a century, is no longer in charge. However, the Qin and Zhu families have been very close since they resumed their exchanges. Zhu Huntang has known Qin Yan'an since he was young. Miss Su had also been in love before marrying into the Zhu family. It is said that the romantic story had some romance and some sadomasochism. Men were always ruthless and women were always sad. In the end, it just ended without a problem and there was nothing new. I remember you said that the photo on my great-grandfather's desk, the unknown man on it, is very similar to a man your great-grandmother used to draw, right? These women during the Republic of China period had no point. Talent and learning will be considered as not worthy of the stage. For them, sketching, oil painting or traditional Chinese painting are just trivial skills, and they may not be very skilled. However, there is no problem in performing performances that make men admire them and add to their charm. It's very similar, but I asked her about it, but she didn't tell me, and her face looked ugly. I didn't dare to ask a second time. Zhu Huntang is most afraid of this great-grandmother, even though she also loves her most. Zhu Huntang, but Zhu Huntang got into trouble, and he was not merciful at all when he was disciplined. Qin Yan'an took out her mobile phone and searched for a long time. She found the photo frame on her great-grandfather's desk that she had copied and pointed at the mysterious man. Zhu Huntang nodded fiercely. A junior like her who had a close relationship went to celebrate Qin Peng's birthday before his birthday. That was the real birthday banquet, the family banquet, and the political event held a few days ago. Zhu Huntang had already gone to Qin Peng's study to talk to the old man, and of course he also saw the photo. Why do you ask this suddenly? That man might be your great-grandmother's first love, Qin Yan'an said with some certainty. Only a first love can never forget her like this. Why are you talking about these old gossips? Zhu Huntang said with some dissatisfaction. Of course, the Su family was once a wealthy family, but the Zhu family also had a profound background. When Su Mei first married into the Zhu family, she had to encounter some bloody dramas that are common in wealthy families. Rumors about Su Mei's previous relationship spread throughout the inner house. There were even rumors that Su Mei was not perfect for a long time. It was even doubtful whether the young master was the son of Mr. Zhu. Zhu Huntang certainly didn't like these rumors and related remarks. What you say is really ridiculous. Zhu Huntang said, suddenly realizing, you mean, this matter may be related to my great-grandmother? Qin Yan'an nodded. My great-grandmother must not know about this. If she knows, she might have to come and have a look. What if she kicks her legs when she is excited when she looks at the vaguely familiar look from back then? Zhu Huntang still respects his grandmother very much. Although she has lived as long as Mrs. Qin Peng, Zhu Huntang still hopes that she can live just one more day. I think it is possible that my great-grandfather told your great-grandmother about this matter. After all, he is the descendant of their common best friend. Qin Yan'an squinted his eyes and looked at Zhu Huntang maliciously. Think about it, my great-grandfather would do this, but what about the one in your family? I think you are a good match for him. Throw the blame on me. I'll feed you to the dogs later, Zhu Huntang said fiercely, showing two small tiger teeth to express his determination. Zhu Huntang is also quite worried. She can still figure out the thoughts of this kind of old lady, especially with the character of the old lady Su Mei. The man she did not get back then is now letting the man's descendants come to marry her Zhu family. This kind of revenge is very possible, although in Zhu Huntang's view, this is not revenge at all. Whoever can enter the Zhu family and be her husband, Miss Zhu San, is marrying a fairy. He has to start from the creation of the world by Pangu. Blessing comes. Qin Yan'an was thinking about the feasibility of it. Should he sell Zhu Huntang backhand? Looking at Qin Yan'an's appearance, Zhu Huntang knew that she had evil intentions and scolded, "Don't pay attention to me. Even if I jump from here, I, Zhu Huntang, will not be with a man you don't like. I will steal the man you like." "Little girl, can you grab the man I like?" Qin Yan'an said disdainfully, then looked at herself in the mirror, and gradually showed an incredible expression. Do you think I look ugly? The beauty in the mirror has her upper body exposed among the flowers. Her figure is graceful and her eyebrows are slightly sad. Without the deliberate indifference, the helplessness condensed in the corners of her lips makes people feel that she is more and more similar to Ye Sijin in the photo. So Zhu Huntang was stunned for a moment. Qin Yinan's topic tonight was too exciting. Zhu Huntang said reluctantly, I am the most beautiful fairy in the world, and you are the second best in the world. Let me tell you, this is not what you think. John Purple Chan Purple. Don't imitate me, speak properly. He said that because I looked too much like my great-grandmother, he couldn't accept my appearance. Do you think this was implicitly saying that he thought I was ugly and looked down on me? Zhu Huntang looked at Qin Yinan carefully and said angrily, it's blinding his dog eyes. But he probably really meant that, otherwise there is no reason why he can't accept you because you look like another great beauty. It's true that everyone has it, no excuses, no one cares about him. A kid doesn't understand the beauty of mature women. I guess in his eyes, beautiful girls like you are the ones he likes, Qin Yinan said sourly. She was faced with the incredible fact that it was not a question of whether she liked Lu Chang'an or not, but that Lu Chang'an actually didn't like her at all. His reason because she looked like Ye Sijin was really terrible. As an excuse, Qin Yinan could only think that Lu Chang'an liked a girl of the same age as him, otherwise why? That's. Zhu Huntang was about to be proud, but immediately became wary. Don't do this, you are the second best fairy in the world, not much different from me. He doesn't like you, nor does he like me, don't expect me to be blamed. Qin Yinan rolled her eyes at her. This sisterly relationship was really made of mud, but she didn't really intend to challenge Zhu Huntang. Just because Lu Chang'an didn't like her, did she still want to go up to the pole and beg to marry him? He had already followed his great-grandfather's wishes. If Lu Chang'an didn't want to, then it was none of his business. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 27. Drinking, Part 5. The hut is in a human environment, without the noise of carriages and horses. I ask you, what can you do? The mind is far away from itself. Picking chrysanthemums under the eastern fence, you can leisurely see the Nanshan mountain. The mountain air is getting better day by day and the birds are flying back and forth. There is a true meaning in this, but I have forgotten to explain it. The life described by Tao Yuanming is somewhat similar to that of Lu Chang'an. He probably had the same life and state of mind, but it was more relaxed. After all, Lu Chang'an never cared about the problem of success and failure. Just like where he lives now, it is an environment that many people would lament, but Lu Chang'an still feels happy both physically and mentally when he wakes up naturally. After Lu Chang'an got up, he swept the sycamore leaves as usual and drank a bag of soy milk. Soy products can well supplement the protein needed by the body. For Lu Chang'an, who lives in poverty, this is an excellent thing. Lu Chang'an is certain that soybeans originated in China. Before modern times, he had not seen records of large-scale cultivation anywhere in the world except East Asia. The earliest soybeans were not called soybeans, but chu, which had the prefix cao plus the character for uncle. Do is a kind of bronze vessel. Look at the character do, the top horizontal line is a pot lid, and the middle word is a pot. Doesn't it look like a burning fire down there? But later on, beans were often used to pack cooked bean sprouts, so beans replaced bean sprouts and became the name of this plant. Lu Chang'an drank soy milk and said to the little girl who brought him soy milk. More than 100 years before the master was born, the Shanrong tribe attacked the Yan kingdom from the south. I persuaded the overlord Qi Honggong to send troops to help, and the attack went all the way to the depths of Yanshan Mountain, the home of the Shanrong tribe. I brought the best bean seeds found in the mountains back to the central plains. Soybeans rose to the status of a staple food, but people at that time could not drink soy milk. Soy milk had to wait until stone mills were popularized. Brother Chang'an, if you don't study all day, you will read some random books. The little girl was obviously not interested. Who said that? My mother. After saying that, the little girl ran away. Lu Chang'an went out for a run and avoided the Bailong Center area as usual. After the run, he went to the vegetable market and bought some beans. They were a bit old, but not spoiled and not bad. There was no place to buy genetically modified soybeans in the vegetable market. That was all used for oil extraction and other industrial raw materials. The stall owner was a little annoyed. She only had a bag of beans. The young man spent a long time picking through it. Could he find gold in it? Spreading beans makes an army. Lu Chang'an randomly threw a handful of beans by the wall. Of course, he didn't have the ability to actually spread the beans and make an army. He just hoped that the beans he threw randomly would take root and sprout, and grow a bean sprout, which could be eaten. After the green beans have grown, pick them off and cook them to make edamame, a great snack for drinking. Most of the time, this kind of hope is in vain. Maybe he will forget it after a while, but Lu Chang'an often does this kind of thing. When he came to school, Lu Chang'an sat in his original seat habitually. Gao Duai and An Nuan looked at him together. Forget about each other in the world, goodbye. Lu Chang'an stood up and was about to return to his seat. I have something to do with you at noon, An Nuan said seriously. Lu Chang'an nodded and didn't ask what was wrong. At this time, Miao Yingying and Lin Xin'e came together. Lu Chang'an returned the seat to Miao Yingying. Gao Duai moved his fat body uncomfortably and sat as far outside as possible. Turned to look at Lin Xinhua and continued to lower his head to do his own exercises. Why waste the limited study time on things like falling in love? An Nuan told Gao Duai in the morning that Miao Yingying and Lin Xinhua were in love. Miao Yingying sat down with a smile. She was a little embarrassed. She felt that Huang Shan was using her as a scissor to cut the red thread. When she fell in love, she became more and more aware of how uncomfortable it was to be forced to separate and not be able to sit together. One thing happened. Miao Yingying wanted to change seats with An Nuan, because An Nuan was sitting across the aisle from Lin Xinhua. Lu Chang'an returned to his seat, raised his legs, and avoided Lu Yuan's seemingly careless kick reaching the aisle. A toad was drawn with human ink on his desk. Bai Hui glanced at Lu Chang'an. Of course she knew that this was done by Lu Yuan and Qian Ning. She would not care about these things, but she would be happy to see Lu Chang'an's reaction. So Bai Hui picked up the Chinese textbook, covered half of his face, raised one hand to rest on his forehead, and glanced secretly at an angle that Lu Chang'an couldn't notice. This toad is so ugly. Lu Chang'an was talking to himself. Bai Hui sneered, you are self-aware. Lu Chang'an put down his skull bag, took out his pen, and drew some dishes and pots next to the toad. Bai Hui was puzzled, but had to admit that Lu Chang'an's painting skills were really good. Bai Hui could also draw, so he knew these simple things better. It's a small thing. It's very skillful to draw lines randomly and still give people the feeling of a good drawing. But what is he doing? When ordinary people are insulted like this, shouldn't they become furious? Bai Hui is sure that if it was Qian Ning or Lu Yuan, he would have slapped the table and jumped up shouting, who did this? After drawing the plates and pots, Lu Chang'an drew knives and forks, and then drew a burning fire in front of the toad. Above the fire was a barbecue grill, and on the barbecue grill was a swan with no feathers plucked out. It was only because the feathers were not plucked that you could tell it was a swan. If the feathers had been plucked, who would know whether the toad was roasting chicken, duck, or some other silly bird? Bai Hui pursed her lips, and the more she looked at Lu Chang'an, the more unhappy she became. He was determined to eat swan meat, even if he thought he was a toad. Lu Chang'an suddenly glanced at Bai Hui, who quickly sat up straight, thinking that he probably didn't notice that he was peeking because his side bangs were blocking his eyes. But Bai Hui couldn't help but take a peek, and Lu Chang'an actually wrote the word white on the roasted swan. White? White fennel or white swan? Bai Hui couldn't be sure and couldn't help but look at Lu Chang'an's pen tip attentively. Lu Chang'an didn't write for a long time, and Bai Hui couldn't help but urge Lu Chang'an. When she raised her head, she found that he was looking at her with a half smile, with a disgusting look in his eyes. Bai Hui's face grew hot, and she glared at Lu Chang'an expressionlessly, then raised her head slightly, and said naturally to Lu Yuan, who was also paying attention not far away, "Does the candy I gave you taste good?" "It's delicious." Lu Yuan was stunned and said. Bai Hui has a cousin who works in Taiwan. She recently returned to Juncha and brought Bai Hui a lot of snacks. Bai Hui also complained that her cousin treated her like a child. In fact, she wants cosmetics. Bai Hui said nothing more, turned around naturally, and noticed with the corner of his eye that damn Lu Chang'an was so appetizing that he wrote the word, and then actually held a copy of. After reading Haikyuu picture notes, the page that opened was a picture of sea snake, which immediately made Bai Hui shiver in disgust. She had been particularly afraid of this soft, smooth, and squirming ugly thing since she was a child. Lu Chang'an was a bastard. Bai Hui clenched her fist and smashed it on the desk. She hoped like never before that the college entrance examination would come soon and end the days of sitting at the same table with Lu Chang'an. The mating of pit vipers can last from 6 to 24 hours. People say that snakes are inherently lustful, but they also think that eating snakes can delay the mating. Sea snakes used to be plentiful, but now there are fewer. In the early years, along the coasts of southern Guangdong and Fujian mountains, there are tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of sea snakes emerging from the sea to mate, twisting and wriggling, which is very spectacular, but now they are almost eaten by people who want to eat sea snakes to delay. Lu Chang'an said to himself very regretfully, when he reads books, he always likes to draw inferences and make recommendations. Bai Hui couldn't help but picture Lu Chang'an's description of countless sea snakes having sex in Bai Hui's mind. Coupled with the greasy food he had eaten in the morning, he felt nauseated and rushed out of the classroom. It's a new week. Please give me a recommendation vote to hit the newcomer list. Please support the new LV1 authors. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 28. The whole morning, Bai Hui didn't say a word to Lu Chang'an, nor did she look at him again, because she felt that Lu Chang'an did it on purpose. He had already discovered that she had peeked at him, so he was so disgusted with her. This made her feel disgusted. Bai Fen is a little embarrassed. In comparison, the two younger brothers, Lu Yuan and Qian Ning, were more obedient. When Lu Chang'an and An Nuan went out to eat at noon, Bai Hui called Miao Yingying over and observed Lu Chang'an's paintings on the desk with the two younger brothers. It must be Bai Fen, Qian Ning affirmed angrily. That's right, how can it be a white swan? This obviously means that the toad wants to eat swan meat. Who would emphasize that the toad eats the white swan? No matter whether the swan is black or white, it is still a swan. Lu Yuan said the momentum was very strong. This is his confession that he likes Bai Fen. After Lu Yuan finished speaking, he slapped Qian Ning for a while. Bai Hui was a little proud when she heard this statement, but it was impossible to be sure because of it, so she turned to look at Miao Yingying. Just leave him alone. He's about to graduate. What are you arguing about? Miao Yingying frowned and muttered, I was also unlucky to sit with Gao Duai. Today I was doing the test paper, and Gao Duai actually stretched his head to take a look. And then he looked at me with bewildered eyes, while shaking his head and saying that Lu Chang'an was gone, and there was no one to discuss the topic. Does he think there are people who are so stupid? Qian Ning laughed. His grades were not bad, although he couldn't compare with Gao Duai, the master of swordsmanship in Huashan. Miao Yingying kicked Qian Ning, and Bai Hui smiled slightly. Why are you so unlucky? You are so close to Lin Xinhua, and the two of them are affectionate across An Nuan. I'm going to die. Miao Yingying hit someone in shame. Lu Chang'an and An Nuan were still eating in the restaurant last time, and Gao Duai was asked by teacher Lu to open a small stove and eat big tonic soup. To make birds' nests, you need to soak them in tianquan boiling water. Now it is best to use natural sparkling water, then use silver needles to pick them, and mix them with tender chicken soup, ham soup, and mushroom soup. The bird's nests made will be jade-colored, not oily, and not greasy. I think Gao Duai should have added more supplements to what he ate, but it may not be that delicious, Lu Chang'an said to An Nuan. Just eat your fast food, don't worry about the bird's nest. An Nuan took out the beef from the beef in sour soup and gave it to Lu Chang'an. She only liked to eat the fungus, bean sprouts and bamboo shoots in it. In fact, these are mainly vegetarian dishes, with only a few slices of beef. Besides, it has been scientifically proven that the ingredients of bird's nest are only bird saliva, some gel, and protein. Eating bird's nest is one of the traditional superstitions. Using so-called scientific analysis to judge any controversial area is itself a kind of superstition, and superstition in science is also superstition. Lu Chang'an shook his head. Rumors do not need to be based on facts, it just depends on how the communicator likes to arrange them. Lu Chang'an smiled. Girls are so beautiful when they are shy. An Nuan was sitting by the window. There was a pot of orchids on the windowsill. They were as thick as An Nuan's eyelashes. Her eyes were shy and her delicate nose was straight. Her bright red lips nibbling on a piece of oily fungus, her neck as elegant as a swan. I'm asking you, answer me honestly. An Nuan stared at Lu Chang'an seriously, but saw herself in his eyes. Her tone couldn't help but soften a little, her eyes flashed. The online dating you talked about last time, what's going on? Do you know King Guofi Yang? Ah, that's my mom's WeChat name. No, your mother's WeChat name is not like this. King Guofi Yang is the heroine of an online novel created by CAI's Hai Heng in 1998. Although it is not the first online novel, because of this novel, it symbolizes the continuous development of online literature. It has grown into a new literature that is different from traditional literature. Popularity and immersion are the biggest features of online literature. Lu Chang'an looked at An Nuan. Online love is the theme of this novel, and dancing lightly was the fantasy of men at that time. The most beautiful template for online dating partners, it can be said that King Guofi Fei symbolizes men's first love online. An Nuan sighed, why is Lu Chang'an so rambling? I want to try everything, but I have never tried online dating, so I feel a little regretful. During the chat with your mother, I can understand the process and details of online dating. It turns out that this is what it is. Lu Chang'an, he said with sudden realization. Are you crazy? That's my mother. An Nuan resisted from putting the beef in sour soup on Lu Chang'an's head. I didn't say that your mother and I were dating online, I just learned about the details of King Guofi Yang and Ruffian Cai's online relationship through communication with your mother on social apps, drawing inferences from one instance to another. Lu Chang'an looked at An Nuan's stiff expression. The palm of his hand calmly held the back of her hand to prevent her from going crazy and overturning the bowl of beef and sour soup. You know I will get angry, why are you provoking me? An Nuan looked at Lu Chang'an, who was on guard, and said word by word. Because you are cuter when you are angry. Lu Chang'an let go of An Nuan's hand and comforted him, calm down, I haven't finished speaking yet. Be serious. An Nuan was shy and happy but also very angry. During this period, you should study hard, review well, and don't think about it all day long. Your mother and I have some affection for each other, and it's just a chat between netizens, not what you think. What I hope most now is that I can go to college being able to be on the same campus as you. You are so cute after all. Lu Chang'an pointed to the bowl in front of An Nuan. Eat more fungus. Humph. An Nuan's voice came from her nose, and it was heavy. Even though Lu Chang'an hated it, why was there a greasy sweetness in her voice, as if she was acting coquettishly? The most important thing is that if you really think that Lu Chang'an and his mother are dating online, it would be too ridiculous. Lu Chang'an really just likes to talk nonsense with others. It just so happens that his mother has a lot of free time, and she treats him as a man of the same age. Maybe it's just like the good impression I have on Lu Chang'an between friends, right? And Nuan raised her head and glanced at Lu Chang'an guiltily, hoping that the friendship between the two of them was still a little different from the relationship between herself and Lu Chang'an. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Siahua. Chapter 29. And Nuan didn't order rice today, and she doesn't train much every day now. Unlike before, she always felt hungry if she didn't eat some rice. As a beautiful volleyball girl, it is necessary to maintain her weight, but no ordinary girl can be healthy without eating. Eating problems. And Nuan drank porridge, and after giving all the beef to Lu Chang'an, he mixed it with fungus, shredded bamboo shoots and bean sprouts. The taste was also very good. This restaurant used to specialize in porridge. This is the specialty, but it was opened near the school. Moreover, people in Juncha were not very keen on eating porridge, so they still made cheap dishes. Seeing you eating porridge reminds me of Yun Niang. Lu Chang'an still ate rice slowly. This man has lived for a long time and always does things like this, taking his time. Shenfu was playing at Yun Niang's house. When she was hungry and couldn't find anything to eat, Yun Niang quietly held Shenfu's sleeve, came to her room, and fed him the porridge and side dishes she had hidden. Then Yun Niang's cousin Yu Hong discovered her. He was laughed at. I wanted some porridge and you said no, but it turned out to be a special treat for your husband to eat. Yun Niang and Shenfu were not married at that time. I won't give you porridge. And Nuan held the porridge bowl in both hands and placed it closer to herself. When Shen returned from smallpox, Yun Niang didn't marry him, and she couldn't do anything. She ate fasting and prayed for him until their wedding night. Lu Chang'an shook his head gently and sighed, for men, ancient times women are more considerate and cute. I'm sorry, it's not a feudal society anymore. Don't expect us women to just stay at home and take care of our husbands and children, and hang around your men. And Nuan said happily. She knew that Lu Chang'an's thoughts had not kept pace with the times at all. Needs to be reformed. 6 chapters of A Floating Life was written by Shenfu. Of course he would beautify himself, and Yun Niang is not worthy. Men in ancient times were hypocritical. They looked affectionate and courteous while taking concubines, drinking wine, and prostitutes to think it was romantic. Especially these are the so-called talented men, such as Sushi, Wang Xiu, Yuan Zhen, and Fans Hongyan. You scold them because they have to memorize too many poems and prose. Lu Chang'an laughed. Fans Hongyan is actually quite enviable. When he met Zhenjianlian, this girl was only 11 or 12 years old. When Zhenjianlian grew up, he married this official prostitute back home. She still kept herself as a jade, and Zhenjianlian called herself MRSRU. The prostitutes of later generations learned this title, but most of them were not as lucky as Zhenjianlian and could not meet Fans Hongyan. You mean that ancient men still valued love and righteousness? Nowadays, no famous person or rich man dares to marry a prostitute as his wife openly. How dare men in ancient times? Your interpretation is a bit crooked. Why doesn't anyone dare to do it now? Lu Chang'an shook his head. Zhenjianlian only made a living through her sensual arts. There are many such women now, and their social status is still quite high. If Fans Hongyan marries again, when I got home, there was no surprise like seeing red in the wedding room. And why do you envy Fans Hongyan? When did you become a Lolita? Don't you like mature women? And Nuan glanced at Lu Chang'an's mobile phone on the dining table. Her mother's mobile phone has a fingerprint lock, and in Nuan he made an excuse to use her mobile phone and secretly checked her WeChat, but couldn't find Lu Chang'an. Even though Lu Chang'an explained, and Nuan was still curious. It is a woman's nature to love to peek into chat history. I like all good-looking women, whether they are mature women or young girls. Lu Chang'an put the phone back in his pocket. Bah, you're shameless. Even good-looking people don't like you. As long as I like it, it's fine. I didn't say that I have to ask others to like me. Eat quickly, you'll be late later. After eating, the two of them leaned against the school wall and drank orange juice. The sun was hot and they were busy chatting. And Nuan finished the drink first, biting her own straw, and looked at Lu Chang'an, who was drinking orange juice slowly as if he was enjoying life. Lu Chang'an stretched out the bottle. And Nuan bit her own straw and put it into Lu Chang'an's bottle. She turned her eyes around and quickly drank up the rest of Lu Chang'an's orange juice in one breath. Your lung capacity is so big, I can't tell, Lu Chang'an laughed as if he was surprised. Don't think it's just your white chest muscles that are developed. And Nuan's cheeks twitched, he breathed smoothly, and snorted disdainfully, I want to wait for you to finish drinking slowly in order not to be late. It's time to get out of school. After saying that, and Nuan hit him on the shoulder again, and actually mocked her that her breasts were not as good as Bai Fen. Back in the classroom, Huang Shan brought a reporter-looking person over, along with two followers, and said to Nuan, this is a reporter from the middle school student magazine, and he wants to interview you. Huang Shan didn't say that Nuan and Lu Chang'an turned a deaf ear to his admonitions and were in love with each other all day long. And Nuan nodded, she was already familiar with such a scene. Okay, it's just that class is about to begin. I won't waste a lot of your time, the reporter smiled. And Nuan blinked at Lu Chang'an, pointed at Bai Hui, who was looking over in the classroom, and followed Huang Shan to the class teacher's office. The biggest worry for girls like Bai Hui is that they cannot put books in front of the desk, which will make the desk narrow, and they must stretch the books or papers as far in front as possible, otherwise there will be something blocking them when they lower their heads. Sight, part of the writing or exercises cannot be seen. Most girls or men cannot understand this kind of distress. Lu Chang'an looked down from a high position and glanced at Bai Fen's delicate collarbone. From the perspective of genetics and reproduction, genes will irresistibly make men pursue such girls more. Desire. Because genes will make males prefer females suitable for breeding and raising offspring, giving them a more stable and safe chance of passing on. Lu Chang'an has been wondering about a question. Modern research shows that in order to increase variation and create more opportunities for evolution, genes limit human life to not be too long, thus driving more reproduction to gain opportunities for variation. So why should one's own genes when there is no limit on your lifetime? Will you still have aesthetic needs from the perspective of genetics and reproduction? In short, Lu Chang'an does like plumper girls driven by his physiological needs. Maybe there are some problems with the relevant explanations of modern science, Lu Chang'an thought. In any era, he has reservations about various mainstream trends of thought. Anyway, time will help him filter out theories that are closer to the truth. Since the birth of the genetic theory, Lu Chang'an has not been satisfied with the things that can be explained, or the explanations made, because he himself is living evidence to the contrary. What are you looking at? Bai Hui covered her chest, her cheeks turned red, and she glared at Lu Chang'an. Qian Ning and Lu Yuan both ran over and asked quickly what was going on. Bai Hui was embarrassed to say it, but still held her collar. Seeing Bai Hui's movements and expressions, Lu Yuan understood it first, and immediately became furious. He raised his fist and smashed it at Lu Chang'an. Qian Ning was a little slower, but not to be outdone, he also punched. Lu Chang'an avoided it, stretched out his hand to pull and push, and the two people's fists touched each other, which made both of them want to scream in pain. You are thinking too much. I just took a look at Bai Fen's collarbone and then I was thinking about other issues, Lu Chang'an said with a smile. What are you thinking about? Why do you want to look at Bai Hui's collarbone? Lu Yuan was stunned for a moment and said reluctantly. Then do you want to stop me from breathing? Don't you know? Bai Hui sometimes reads, and I can smell the smell in my mouth, Lu Chang'an said regretfully. Unfortunately, it is impossible for me to consciously not breathe. You guys imagine that the girl you like sits next to me every day, and the smell of her breath blends with mine. Is it more painful and unacceptable? What's the taste in my mouth? Bai Hui was short of breath, but she didn't dare to gasp loudly. Of course, girls find it particularly difficult to accept this statement. Saying that she has a taste in her mouth and body is simply worse than saying she has a taste. Ugly, embarrassed and angry. The aroma. Bai Hui opened her mouth, her cheeks were still red, and she didn't know what to say. She turned her head and opened a book at random. Lu Yuan and Qian Ning felt that there was no need to worry about what Lu Chang'an said and that only lunatics would care about such things, but at the same time they felt uncomfortable. At this time, the class bell rang and they had to sit back in their seats. Lu Chang'an laughed twice. The little boy was really easy to tease. Lu Chang'an, you are so annoying, how can an Nuan tolerate you? Bai Hui wrote a line in his notebook and pushed it over. Because we are all people you hate, so birds of a feather flock together, Lu Chang'an wrote. Fortunately, the college entrance examination was coming soon. Bai Hui took a deep breath. Bai Hui tore off the paper and tore it into pieces. Girls like to be told how sweet they are. Bai Hui no longer wanted to have a cold war with Lu Chang'an. After all, he was the boy An Nuan liked. If she had a better relationship with him, An Nuan would be unhappy, but Lu Chang'an seemed to be really tied to An Nuan with all his heart and refused to accept the olive branch offered by Bai Hui at all. When Xiahua opens a book, she basically decides on a subject and starts writing it. She rarely reads the same type of articles on the website, because no matter what others write, Xiahua will always write in the style she likes. Only recently I learned that there are many themes about immortality. After a quick glance, I found that they are all very well written. Lu Chang'an is probably the most idle and poor immortal protagonist. Xiahua will explain Lu Chang'an's mentality problem later and why he chooses the life he has now. He naturally has his own experience and state of mind, so be patient. Continue to ask for recommendation votes to hit the newcomer list. Please recommend and collect. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 30. An Nuan's interview ended quickly. In the past, magazine interviews with students came from the recommendations of education departments and key schools in various places. However, today is different from the past. With the development of online media, even many central government agencies and magazines have lowered their status. Naturally, traditional media must also take the initiative to find more focus points to enrich content. An Nuan enthusiastically said that there was a boy in his class who was very good at playing volleyball, but the other party was obviously not interested in interviewing one more person. After all, not everyone has as many social media fans as An Nuan and the gimmick of a volleyball girl. And excellent in both character and learning. After school, An Nuan went to play volleyball. The magazine reporter had not left yet and wanted to take some photos and videos of An Nuan's training. Lu Chang'an put his school bag in the school and walked back by himself. Cauliflower perch in the first month, sari in the second month, mandarin fish in the third month, anchovies in April, whitefish in May. Coming to the riverside, Lu Chang'an looked at the water and felt that he hadn't eaten fish for a long time. For Lu Chang'an, at school, eating in the cafeteria and nearby small restaurants is just to satisfy the full feeling of the stomach. The dishes cooked by oneself are just for the delicious food. So Lu Chang'an put the mobile phone in a plastic bag, wrapped it layer by layer, put it in his zippered trouser pocket, and jumped off the bridge. The river wind blew against his face, and Lu Chang'an closed his eyes, preparing to face the splash from the water. Ah! A woman screamed in the distance. Lu Chang'an turned around in the air, circled his index finger and thumb, made a gesture, and rushed into the water. It is actually very dangerous for a normal person to jump into the water at such a height. The impact of the water surface tearing him apart made Lu Chang'an feel a surge of relief in his muscles. Then he got out of the water and swam quickly to the center of the river bank. The woman kept screaming and shouting, and immediately a crowd gathered, and then they saw Lu Chang'an emerging from the water and swimming calmly. "Do you want to call the police? It's probably a mental illness. Do you do some extreme sports? Maybe it's the anchor. It must be the kind of outdoor anchor who stews himself in an iron pot." In the midst of the discussion, Lu Chang'an had already swam away. He could not hear the sound on the bridge. He swam to a place with dense aquatic plants near the head of the island. He searched around and finally found a large crucian carp in the gap between two boulders. Although it is best to eat whitefish in May, it is rare to find it. Crucian carp is also good. When choosing crucian carp, you must not choose one with a black back and a round body. This kind of crucian carp has stiff meat and many bones, which makes it unpalatable. The fish in front of me is flat and white. Generally speaking, the meat is tender and soft. After cooking, lift the bones and the meat will fall off naturally. Lu Chang'an was not greedy either. He caught a crucian carp and stuffed it into his trouser pocket, zipped up his trouser pocket and swam to the shore. "It's been a long time since I crossed the Juncha River. The river is now much narrower than before and the current is much faster. Except for a very small number of swimming enthusiasts, there are also many fewer people who cross the Juncha River from time to time. Unlike the period of peace and good times after liberation, the Great Man effect brought a large number of crossing enthusiasts." Wet all over, Lu Chang'an returned to the community and bought a bottle of Urquatu at the canteen. The proprietress of the canteen, Auntie Xie, chuckled when she saw Lu Chang'an's appearance. She stretched out her hand and pulled Lu Chang'an's pants, a bit mischievously trying to make him naked. Buttocks. When women get older, they like to tease little boys, which is no different from men who like little girls. Lu Chang'an reacted quickly, held her back, and smiled. This Aunt Xie was a divorced woman, and she had always been very sharp. "Ouch, can't you tell?" Aunt Xie continued to giggle. Lu Chang'an took out the crucian carp from the zipper pocket. If a woman of this age misunderstood that Lu Chang'an was interested in her, she would knock on the door in the middle of the night today, even if it was Hong Xin who had climbed over his wall hundreds of years ago. Not to mention the current trend. Aunt Xie was a little disappointed, but she still found it funny. "I'll give you money later." "Good." Lu Chang'an went home, changed his clothes, killed the crucian carp, and steamed it with a little wine and autumn oil. To make the crucian carp delicious, the key is that the water vapor from the pot cover cannot drip onto the fish. The fish meat is best steamed until it becomes jade-colored. If it is too white, if it's a little too hot, the taste won't be as fresh. After eating the fish, Lu Chang'an looked at the truck in front of the house. "Has this thing always been kept here? I always feel that something is inappropriate, but I don't know where to put it." Lu Chang'an looked back at his room. At this time, the phone rang, the sound was muffled. Lu Chang'an took the phone out of the plastic bag and read the message. "Today I saw someone jumping into the river from the bridge. It scared me to death. That's me. Haha, what a coincidence. It was really me. When I jumped into the river, a woman next to me screamed. She seemed to be quite tall. Was it you?" "It wasn't me. I rushed here later. It took a long time." "Real? Real?" "Unfortunately, I didn't see much of her appearance, but her scream was quite nice." Haha, no one praises others for their nice screams. In that case, they are all exaggerated screams. Your voice sounds nice. I hate it, I told you it's not me. While we were chatting, Fan Jian's phone call came in. The construction site was short of a night watchman tonight, and there were 300 people in one night. Night vigil is not a physical job, but it requires staying up late and is relatively boring, so the price is a little higher than moving bricks, Fan Jian explained. Lu Chang'an happily agreed. At 10 o'clock in the evening, Lu Chang'an came to the construction site on time and met Fan Jian. Fan Jian was still wearing a suit and leather shoes today. It could be seen that he had been specially ironed. He was a little straighter than when Lu Chang'an saw him last time. He still took out the betel nut when meeting him. Lu Chang'an refused to eat this and waved his hand with a smile. At 11 o'clock, the workers basically left. You have to walk around and see if there are any electric switches that are not turned off, so you can turn them off. If the faucets are not turned off, you can also turn them off. In addition, you have to be careful about who comes. There are a few people besides you who steal materials at the construction site. You all do your own thing and don't worry about them. Fan Jian looked Lu Chang'an up and down, suppressing the doubts in his heart and not asking any more questions. Even the boss was waiting for the black stockings. What is the background of the female secretary? What is even more exaggerated is that she keeps pestering a young migrant worker. Is it a modern fairy tale? Good. Fan Jian handed the helmet and flashlight to Lu Chang'an, and Lu Chang'an started walking along the route pointed by Fan Jian. After a circle, he could rest for a while and then go look around. It didn't mean that he had to keep walking around. The construction site gradually became quiet, and Lu Chang'an waited slowly. There was no doubt that what happened tonight was arranged by Zhongqing. Zhongqing himself was definitely not that interested in him. It seemed that the idle little girl was planning to keep pestering him endlessly. Lu Chang'an didn't like this, but he wasn't in a hurry, let alone felt irritated. He looked at the flashlight in his hand. Modern technology was really amazing. If this thing had been in ancient times, it would have been very useful. The light was concentrated and the scattering angle was extremely high. It's small, but it's very powerful when used as a signal light. Even during a night raid, this light can swing around and make all the enemy troops in front lose their combat effectiveness. When the morale of the army is weakened, it is not a problem to fight 10 against 100. After sitting and playing with the flashlight, Lu Chang'an continued his night patrol. When he walked to the wall, he saw Zhongqing holding the big black dog, followed by 4 muscular men in black suits standing at the exit. No idlers are allowed to enter or exit the construction site at night, Lu Chang'an said conscientiously. The corners of Zhongqing's eyes twitched. Is there something wrong with Lu Chang'an's brain? The last time I saw him, he was selling mustard greens and bamboo shoots to her. This time, she was obviously here for him. What was he thinking? Zhu Huntang obviously hoped to use softer methods to find Lu Chang'an, but Zhongqing felt that it was not necessary. Since he was not the man Zhu Huntang liked and just wanted to meet him, of course he had to use a simple and more efficient method.